The hospital was alive with quiet urgency, the sterile white walls reflecting the soft fluorescent lights that hummed overhead. Nurses moved briskly from room to room, carts clattering lightly as monitors beeped in measured rhythm. Amidst the organized chaos, she sat in the waiting area, her hands resting gently on the curve of her growing belly. Her heart fluttered with excitement and a tinge of anxiety, each movement of her unborn child a reminder of the life she was nurturing. She glanced around, noting the familiar routine of medical staff and other expectant mothers, yet a sense of unease lingered beneath the surface. Outside, the lobby echoed faintly with footsteps and distant voices, yet in her own bubble, time seemed suspended between hope and worry. Her husband's absence loomed quietly. His calls had been sporadic, his texts curt, and sometimes confusing. She had tried to ignore it, convincing herself that the pressures of his work simply demanded his attention. Still, a whisper of doubt flickered in her mind, unbidden, almost as if intuition warned her of turbulence approaching. Love and anticipation battled subtly with this unease, creating a tension that hovered silently in the otherwise calm hospital atmosphere. Her husband, a man whose wealth and charm were spoken of in hushed admiration at gala dinners and business functions, was far from the perfect image he projected. Behind his tailored suits and magnetic smile lay a life carefully curated to hide truths that might unravel the life he had built with her. Late nights spent working, sudden business trips, and secretive phone calls had become increasingly common. Friends and acquaintances praised him for his generosity and charisma, never suspecting that beneath the surface, deception and indulgence had begun to take root. The way he controlled conversations, dominated rooms without effort, and handled crises with a calm that bordered on arrogance made him seem untouchable. Yet, subtle hints, furtive glances at his phone, whispered messages when he thought she was distracted, and unexplained absences betrayed a shadow life. The audience, aware of his dual existence, sensed a storm brewing, a darkness that could shatter the trust carefully cultivated in their shared life. The contrast between his public persona and private reality was stark, and while she remained blissfully unaware, the tension beneath the surface was taut, like a thread ready to snap. That tension became manifest when she saw her husband arrive at the hospital with someone else, a woman whose presence radiated confidence and glamour, someone whose very aura suggested ambition and audacity. The mistress walked with a measured grace, her heels clicking lightly against the polished floors, drawing subtle glances from the staff and visitors alike. She greeted the husband with a familiarity that should have alarmed anyone watching, a silent claim in her every gesture. The husband, meanwhile, exhibited a strange mixture of desire, guilt, and panic. His eyes darted nervously, and a faint flush betrayed the internal conflict he could not hide. The stakes in that sterile hospital hallway had suddenly increased, and while the mistress remained oblivious to the moral weight of the space, the audience could already sense a scandal threatening to erupt. Each step they took together amplified the tension, and every subtle smile, whispered word, or accidental brush of a hand seemed loaded with unspoken danger. Meanwhile, his wife remained blissfully unaware of the storm at her doorstep. Her focus was entirely on the new life within her, her heart swelling at the thought of motherhood. She engaged tenderly with the nurses, asked questions with gentle curiosity, and smiled warmly at other expectant mothers. She was vulnerable in the most human way, radiating trust and optimism. Dramatic irony colored the scene. The audience, privy to her husband's secret, watched each interaction with growing dread, understanding that betrayal lurked close by. The stark contrast between her calm, hopeful demeanor and the husband's mounting anxiety made the tension almost unbearable. Her innocence heightened the stakes, emphasizing how unprepared she was for the confrontation that fate seemed poised to deliver. The husband's nervousness became more pronounced as the minutes passed. He fidgeted incessantly, checking his phone in short bursts, whispering into it with a tone that suggested secrecy and urgency. Small incidents, the accidental dropping of a pen, a hasty glance toward the waiting room, a whispered word to the mistress, made the tension almost tangible. Staff and other visitors remained oblivious, their routines unchanged, leaving the audience to feel the private drama unfold in parallel. Every subtle movement, hurried gesture, and nervous glance was a reminder of the delicate balance he was trying to maintain, and each minor slip foreshadowed the inevitable confrontation that loomed ever closer. Her instincts, however, were beginning to stir. Tiny inconsistencies, the coldness in his tone, the unusual timing of messages, gestures that didn't match words, began to plant seeds of doubt in her mind. Confusion battled denial as she questioned whether her suspicions were valid. She replayed fleeting memories, piecing together moments that now seemed out of place. Every glance at her husband, every half-hearted smile, now carried a weight she could not ignore. Anxiety and suspicion gnawed at her, though she forced herself to appear calm and composed. The audience felt her growing awareness, her mind circling ever closer to the revelation that could upend her world. The mistress, emboldened by the husband's faltering composure, began to push boundaries. Her presence became more audacious. She leaned in when speaking to him, her words tinged with ownership, and her subtle provocations became harder to ignore. The husband's discomfort was evident. His lips pressed thin, his hands clenched briefly, his mind torn between fear of exposure and desire for ease with her presence. Whispered exchanges, secretive glances, and small incidents escalated the tension, all while his wife remained unaware, the audience fully attuned to the unfolding suspense. The mistress's confidence highlighted the moral bankruptcy she represented, a foil to the wife's unwavering vulnerability and grace. Suddenly, the calm was shattered by a sharp, urgent pain. The wife's body tensed, her hands clutching her abdomen as distress spread across her face. Nurses rushed to her side, voices clipped with professional urgency, while monitors beeped rapidly, recording every shift in her vital signs. The husband froze, caught between the pressing need to protect his wife and the fear of his secret unraveling in front of the mistress. The mistress, witnessing the scene, faltered, her audacity momentarily replaced by confusion and unease. Time seemed suspended as medical staff swarmed around her, each movement underscoring the vulnerability and strength of the pregnant woman fighting for her child. Then came the moment that would change everything. The husband entered the room, attempting casual composure, the mistress by his side. But he froze the instant he saw her, his pregnant wife, writhing slightly in pain yet radiating courage and determination. The raw strength in her eyes, her unwavering resolve, struck him with a force that left him speechless. The mistress, witnessing this display, recoiled slightly, unsure how to react, jealousy and panic mingling across her face. For a brief moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. The husband's guilt, fear, and helplessness collided into a paralyzing moment of recognition. The power dynamic had shifted, morality asserting itself in the starkest, most visible way. Through the pain, the wife demonstrated resilience that seemed almost superhuman. She followed doctors' instructions with precision, breathed through each wave of discomfort, and displayed an inner dignity that commanded attention. Her strength amplified the husband's betrayal, casting it in stark relief. Every observer, even the mistress, could sense the moral weight of the scene. Courage and love outshone deception and greed. Emotional alignment firmly placed the audience on the side of the wife, creating an unshakable tension between human decency and selfish indulgence. In those quiet moments of reflection, the husband confronted the stark reality of his actions. His choices, once justified through convenience or desire, now seemed petty, even cruel, against the backdrop of his wife's bravery. Desire clashed with conscience, fear with responsibility, and the mistress' presence felt increasingly intrusive and insignificant. The audience could sense his inner turmoil, the moral reckoning that was unavoidable. Would he attempt to redeem himself, or would he allow consequences to unfold naturally, bearing the weight of his own choices? Subtle glances and body language conveyed the wife's partial awareness of betrayal without immediate confrontation. She noticed tension in his posture, hesitation in his speech, and furtive expressions directed at the mistress. Silent, loaded looks spoke volumes as the room itself became a theater of unspoken accusation. Mistress' arrogance, contrasted with the wife's silent power, heightened the drama. The public nature of the hospital, coupled with the private intensity of motion, created a scene charged with moral and emotional tension. Thankfully, the medical emergency passed. Doctors stabilized her, offering brief nods of reassurance. The wife's strength and determination left a lasting impression on everyone present, amplifying the moral victory she had achieved simply through resilience. Her husband, confronted with reality, faced his ethical and emotional reckoning. The mistress, witnessing the consequences of her involvement, began to grasp the cost of manipulation. The literal and symbolic victory of courage over deceit resonated with all who observed. The husband attempted quiet explanations, tentative apologies whispered in an effort to salvage pride or connection. The wife listened, calm and resolute, her posture firm and uncompromising. Mistress' reactions ranged from anger to disbelief, a testament to the collapse of influence and control she had presumed. Dramatic tension hovered as the possibility of forgiveness was considered, but ultimately denied. Moral authority firmly rested with the wife. As the day drew to a close, the wife asserted moral and emotional dominance. Her husband humbled by his choices, and the mistress' influence evaporated. The scene closed with symbolic power. The wife emerged as the clear victor, her strength and dignity undeniable. Husband's status, wealth, and presence were powerless against the undeniable force of integrity and courage. In the aftermath, the wife recovered fully, her child safe and sound. Her reflections on betrayal, resilience, and personal growth illuminated the lessons learned. Courage and love triumph over greed and deceit. Dignity and integrity cannot be bought or coerced. Life continued with hope, strength, and a newfound self-respect. She had emerged not merely unbroken but empowered, her personal and maternal journey a testament to the enduring power of human strength.